Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today on this Doctor's Day, we are beaming to you India's COVID test, a show where we have brought together some of the most respected experts in the field, along with pioneers, along with stakeholders who are doing their bit, who are determined to support Team India. So on this 20th National Doctors' Day, there is an undeniable need to salute the courage, the resilience, and the immense sacrifice. We keep talking about the challenges that COVID poses, and doctors have been on the front lines through this pandemic, through hail or high water. They are the reason why we have gone through 2 waves of COVID-19, and we are still talking of winning. We're still talking about why the fight must go on. And today I have with me Dr. Devi Shetty of Narayan Hridulay. I call him a living legend in the field of medicine, very respected pioneer, entrepreneur, doctor, man of heart and mission, and someone I feel very proud to consider. I hope he allows me a personal friend over a decade now. Dr. Devi Shetty, it's good to have you today. And for anyone, thank you, sir. And for anyone who has been through tests for or without COVID, you would know the name Dr. Lal's. And it's the Dr. Lal's Path Labs is a household name. Dr. Arvind Lal, man behind Dr. Lal Path Labs, chairman and managing director, great doctor, great person. Thank you very much, Dr. Lal. Thank you. And we have also with us today the managing director of Nissan India. Thank you, sir. And Rakesh Srivastava is the managing director of Nissan India. Besides being a very, very respected leader in the field of automobiles in the country. He's a veteran in that area. Anyone who's in the auto industry knows him, has actually put his money where his mouth is on this, and has pushed a whole new campaign to create awareness about COVID. It's a general awareness and safety campaign, and the idea is to make sure that you do a solid contribution towards combating the challenges of COVID-19. I want to start with you, Rakesh. No better time. I said on my program yesterday that we must not be complacent. The government must not be complacent. We must not talk about how many records we've broken. We must talk about how much more we need to do. But what made you? You are a leading corporate in the field of automobiles. What made you push this initiative? What's the idea behind it?
Thank you, Arnav, and to our doctor friends. On the National Doctors' Day, I'd like to wish them good health and happiness. They have been the angels of ours during these times, the challenging times of the COVID, where the challenge has been on life, the challenge has been on livelihood, bringing a lot of stress and strain. And towards this, although the Government of India has taken multiple initiatives, one towards communication on the safety protocols, towards ensuring social distancing by way of bringing in lockdowns or restrictions on movements, and also towards the vaccination. What we felt is that the 2 waves that we've had, the first wave that was in the last year starting in March, and again we've had a second wave here, the stress and strains have been very, very high, but there have been also learnings. And now we are on the verge of a third wave, as has been stated, right, in the media by our doctor friend, the scientists, the people who are there, that, okay, we are on the threshold of a third wave coming in any time. So towards this, what we felt that as Team India, we need to amplify the message of precautions to be taken. Because I remember still the adage, right, where it was said, precaution is better than cure. And yes, we have our doctor friends towards the cure, but if we can do the precaution, right, we will be able to save, right, lot of stress and strain which everyone undergoes. And towards this, we went in towards a campaign called Support Team India. And that is the initiative taken in. Although the auto industry, which has always been at the forefront in terms of social causes, leading from the front in terms of contributing it, whether it is by way of medical supplies or by way of the oxygen or various initiatives. And towards this, what we felt that at Nissan, we could also take multiple actions from our side. While we have taken these initiatives in terms of COVID support by way of contributing almost like something like 6.5 crores towards oxygen supply, the concentrators, supporting the fraternity, the social causes, the migrant laborers. But what we felt at this time, maybe prevention and precaution would be the biggest thing around, because if it comes in, it would leave a lot of challenges to be faced by our medical fraternity and by everyone. So that was the big thought behind us, that, okay, let's work towards building up a campaign of what we call as Support Team India, and India versus Corona, the fight that we are having currently.
Thank you, Rakesh. And if I think it's remarkable that you are pushing towards greater awareness. Makes me wonder whether we need to face a crisis of this extent, of this scale, a calamity, a tragedy of this scale, to remind ourselves of the gaps that we needed to fill. Dr. Lal, every time I have met Dr. Devi Shetty, and I've had occasion to meet him personally, we've had a family equation, and whenever I've met Dr. Devi Shetty, he has always told me about scalability. And he has been obsessed about the need to bring in the human resource aspect to medicine. And we often think, Dr. Shetty, that good medicine means getting good equipment. But medical care means getting the caregivers. And you have been speaking about it. You've written editorials. You've lobbied for it. I think you've been pushing for the cause, and then boom, suddenly, COVID-1, COVID-2 happens, and everyone turns around and says, did we not read the warning signals in time? When Dr. Devi Shetty and others would say, we need more doctors, not less doctors, we need more specializations, we need to loosen the controls, we need to get the students in, we need to get real practitioners in, and suddenly we find a shortage of doctors, and we find doctors who are so stressed. I just wanted to start by asking you on this Doctor's Day, Dr. Devi Shetty, that the human resource problem in the medical field, how can we fix it? How urgently can we fix it? And how urgent is it to fix it today, given what we are facing?
Thanks, Arnab. Thanks a lot for the opportunity. First of all, when the COVID first started, we all thought that it's going to last for a year or maximum 2 years. Then one day there will be a big announcement that COVID has gone and we will all celebrate and live happily ever after.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, COVID is not going to go away. COVID is not going to go away for quite some time, few more years, because Spanish flu is still persisting as the common cold, what we are suffering from. Now, we cannot change what virus can do, but we can protect ourselves. So one of the most important component what is required in our fight against COVID, as you rightly pointed out, are the skilled manpower, doctors, nurses, and paramedics. Because beds do not treat patients. It is the people who treat patients. It is the doctors and nurses. So it is very, very important for us to concentrate on adequately staffing the Tier 2 and Tier 3 city government hospitals, public hospitals. I'll tell you why that is very important. First of all, when you drive away from any of the big cities, the biggest hospital you'll come across is the government hospital. The private hospital will have 20 bed, 30 bed. They can't make a big difference. So that is where our problem is. Strangely, today, if you ask anybody, any senior doctor, any policymaker, any politician or a minister, how many doctors we have, nobody knows. How many specialists we have, nobody knows. The medical council will come up with a statement, we have over 11 lakh, 12 lakh doctors. But if you look at the list of the doctors, some of them were registered in 1930s, 1940s. Do you honestly think they are still alive or they are practicing? So essentially, first we need to get the data on how many real doctors are working in the country, how many nurses are working in the country. And nursing, the most important part of the fight against COVID are the nurses, almost as important as the doctors, because as doctors, we can manage 30, 40 bed ICU alone because we are just giving the instruction. But who is going to stand near the patient 24 hours, monitoring their parameters, giving them the oxygen, taking care of their needs? The nurses. They are the real fighters. So, and we have been having shortage of more than 2 million of them. So essentially, we need to relook at the medical education. We need to look at the numbers. We need to look at where do we have the maximum problem, and we have to staff it, because this COVID will not end by end of the year or 2 years. It is going to be there 4 or 5 years at least. It will not be as vicious and as contagious as it is today, but there will be some towns, some cities will have a spike, again it will go down. It is going to really stress the healthcare system. So we need to really relook at how the medical education runs, remove this thing about medical education being an elitist affair. It is like any other apprenticeship. We need to look at the nursing education. We need to create virtually every hospital with over 100 beds should become a nursing college. So if we adopt that attitude, believe me, we will be able to conquer, because people are going to get tested. Our victory is not in terms of reducing the infection. Our victory is in terms of when a patient unfortunately lands in the ICU, whether we can get them out successfully. In the end, that's what matters. In the end, what matters is how many people died due to COVID, not about how many people got infected with COVID.
Dr. Shetty, many people would be flabbergasted when they hear you say that we must have more doctors, because if you actually look at the situation on the ground, how many good students want to be doctors, and how many good doctors want to be specialists, and how many good specialists want to be super specialists, it seems like a pyramid. It's like you've created artificial scarcity in a country where the need for doctors is unimaginable. So I think we've done ourselves a great disservice. And if anybody is watching this in the government, I would say, wake up and listen. People like Dr. Shetty have nothing to gain personally by evangelizing this. If we don't listen now, and it's not going to be only COVID, Dr. Lal, it won't be just COVID. COVID sort of shook us out of our slumber, jolted us. But you are in the field of pathology. You have thousands of people working with you, one of the largest path labs. You know that it's not just treatment, it's even access to testing. Affordability of testing, access to testing. How many specialists do we have? How many radiologists? How many pathology specialists? How many microbiologists? How many biochemists do we have? Are we creating enough manpower? So on this Doctor's Day, do you think that's also a factor today? Access to testing, not just access to urgent medical care.
Thank you, Arna, for getting me here. And the first answer to your question is that, well, India has shown the way. When we started COVID testing, there was just 1 or maybe 2 labs. And today we are talking about nearly 2,500 labs, out of which 60% are belonging to the private sector. So I think whatever you may say, but there has been no dearth of testing. And we ourselves are testing the RT-PCR in more than 19 locations right now, and one of them is even so-called overseas in Bangladesh. And so what I'm saying is the methodology of containing this pandemic has not changed. It is test, track, isolate, treat, and now vaccinate. So these four things, and of course the COVID compliant behavior, you cannot get rid of, because in India one thing which is there probably in our character is that we start celebrating too soon. Even before the last man is out in cricket, Kapil Dev should have been here.
I agree.
So we start celebrating. So I think we started doing that prematurely. And I firmly believe that, well, the government is doing its bit. And I mean, I don't have to go into all that. But what about our own behavior? And on the first day when the unlocking was done, in one mall in Delhi, within 3 hours, there were 19,000 people. On the escalator, there was not one place to stand. So this is what, we are. I mean, so we have to change, and then let the doctors do. And the second part, which I would quickly add, is that you've got to go into an overdrive regarding vaccination. So vaccinate, because without vaccination, you're going to lose the battle. And of course, everybody knows the numbers. The ideal is 1 crore a day. And the government, I mean, in the last 1 week, we've been touching about, I think, about 50 lakhs a day. So if this could be ramped up, and every day you are hearing new things, that there are more and more people, the private sector has been roped in. And the private vaccines, like the ones which are not made in India, that is Covishield and the Covaxin, apart from these, the Russian vaccine, that is Sputnik V, and now the other vaccines which are going to come in, should be given freely to the private sector. They should be made available. Nobody in India should now say that hame vaccine nahi mili. The vaccine has to be procured. And the private sector will come up to the what it's supposed to do, and of course the government will keep on saying that private is not doing enough. But please give us the vaccines, and we will show it to you. And by December, I'm sure it is an achievable target. So that's what I'd like to say right now.
Yeah, Dr. Lal, I'd on another note, I also want to share with you, Rakesh, that when I was fighting COVID, I've always had deep respect for the medical profession, and some of my best friends are all doctors. But when you experience it firsthand, Rakesh, like when I was in hospital, there was a young doctor taking care of me, Dr. Shetty, and I never realized, Rakesh, how difficult it is to wear a heavy PPE suit all day. And when you wear it all day in that heat and humidity in a hospital, you're running around, and then you have to put some liquids on your hands when you wash and take it off. And they leave scars. And then sometimes you feel so bad for the doctors. They also have stress. They're also human. They have cardiac problems. They have diabetes problems. They have all lifestyle and stress-related issues, Rakesh, because they serve. And I don't know, Rakesh, what you think about it, but for me, at a personal level, the burnout of doctors is a matter of great concern. Young doctors, Rakesh, those who are working in the critical care units 24/7, the mental and physical impact on them. I think on this Doctors' Day, we should talk about that a little bit too. What do you think, Rakesh? I mean, I think that's where we need to work. You talk about building Team India. I think what can we do to motivate our doctors, if not incentivize them? What do you think, Rakesh?
To me, it is as the roles that the doctors have played in our life has always been great. But the COVID actually brought it to a different level altogether, right?
Yes.
To the forefront, right? And I think many times we have taken our doctors or our medical professionals as granted, right? Towards that, okay, they are onto a particular job or a particular act that they are doing. But I think this is the time when everyone realized that, yes, this is one fraternity, which is basically selfless. And yes, at times now, it is when we looked at it, the way they went about in terms of the challenges that they faced, right, continuous of hours of working, and the stress and strain that they themselves underwent, I think it was like a thankless thing around, right? And this is the time for the entire country to come up at the forefront and say that, hey, there's a big thing, right? And you are our saviors, you are the angels, and we need to thank you towards this. And
but we don't
as
do it,
I said it around, one of the biggest things that we can do is, yes, we don't do it, but I say is can we lessen the challenges to them by way of ourselves keeping safe? And towards this, what we felt as a corporate world, can we amplify this message of precaution to be taken, right? So that the lesser number of people that get infected with COVID, I think the lesser will be the challenge to the medical fraternity towards it. And towards this, then we created this campaign called Support Team India, drawing in a parallel or an analogy of a cricket match with the COVID match, where we are talking about exactly is that India versus Corona, and drawing in parallels, like take example like helmet, like it can be drawn as a parallel to a mask, right, being worn, so that, okay, you have your safety, gloves towards the sanitizing of the hands, a crease like towards the social boundary or the social distancing that you can do it around, net practice towards the vaccination, so that you are able to build up your strength and immunity.
Fantastic.
You are able to work as a team with a whole lot of what you call exactly is the support systems that you have. And overall, just like in a cricket match, you have a third umpire, you have our doctor professionals here, who will take a decision on this, that what is good for you, and we need to trust them and support them towards it. And towards this, the campaign that we have created is Support Team India, and this campaign is anchored by Kapil Dev, the legend, the icon, who actually gave us hope in 1983 when there was no hope for the World Cup, actually speaking. And then as the captain of the team, as a team member, he led us to a victory, from hope to happiness. And I believe at this point of time, if we could spread this message that can we take those precautions, can we take these challenges, so that we are able to manage the intensity of the third wave. As our doctor friends have said, that, well, there is a challenge there, and can we lighten the burden of our friends there? I think that would be a great thing where we could do it. And that is what we felt, to create a campaign of Support Team India.
No, I think it's great that you've done it. And I think that we can lead from the front. But I think now the good opportunity is because the government will listen. People will listen. Dr. Shetty spoke about Tier 1 and Tier 2 government hospitals. Now, Dr. Shetty, I believe, and I hope governments don't get me wrong. Governments always get me wrong, but I hope they don't get me wrong on this one. Like I said last night, don't congratulate yourself too much. I'd say today, government can't do everything. Government has to partner. Government should not take all responsibility on itself, but the government can finance, incentivize, provide opportunity, access land, resources, and government facilities when required. Question to you, Dr. Shetty. If I'm in Kolkata or Bengaluru or any of the places where, for example, Dr. Lal is having his several path labs, I have access to all kinds of medical care if I have the financial resources. But do I have the access in a smaller town or a village or a semi-rural, semi-urban area? I have seen ghastly pictures of what you call public health centers where animals are walking inside. There is not a bed, leave alone a doctor. I think our problem is that our entire medical infrastructure has become too urbanized. And we are only thinking of medical as a last resort. When a person is in a critical condition, you take him straight to a referral hospital. I was speaking to somebody recently who runs a big hospital. He said, 90% of the people coming in here are people in a critical condition. I said, where do they come from? She said, I wish they had come to me 2 weeks earlier.
Yes.
I said, why are there so many casualties in your hospital? He says, well, people are coming to me only at a very critical stage, and they're coming to me from small towns. I wish they had come to me a week earlier. So, Dr. Shetty, the question to you is, we do not have the time. Can we create a war effort? What will, if someone were to tell you, think of a war effort, Dr. Devi Shetty. If 100 people like you and Dr. Lal come in, what will be that war effort? What will it look like? If someone were to give you a 100-day mission to Devi Shetty, where would you start and where would you want to end?
See, Arnab, fortunately, governments have really equipped all the government hospitals very well. Whether it's in Tier 2, Tier 3 cities, they are one of the well-equipped hospitals today. And space is not a problem. The only problem they have is doctors and nurses. The irony is there are 180,000 young doctors who are waiting for their NEET PG exam, not treating COVID patients or not treating any patient. They're all sitting at home or in coaching classes, mugging those multiple choice questions to get one of those elusive PG seats. And
Yeah.
if the NEET exam can be preponed, NEET PG, and only about 30,000, 35,000 of them will get the PG seat. And
Right.
about 130,000, 140,000 doctors are still without a PG seat. Now, if they should all go to tier 2, tier 3 city government hospitals and serve there for at least 6 months to 1 year, and they will only do it with great passion if they are given some grace marks during the next PG entrance exam.
Okay.
And that is a norm. Rural service government does give grace marks. There is some consideration in PG selection. If we can do that, we will have, may not be 130,000, 140,000, but at least 1 lakh doctors, at least 60, 70,000 doctors will work in the tier 2, tier 3 city government hospital. Now, there are, at any given time, there are over 2 lakh young girls who are, boys and girls who have finished their final year nursing, waiting for the exam. I don't think exam has happened yet. If they commit to work in the government hospital for 6 months or 1 year, on a salary, of course, and they are given some incentive, maybe some grace marks or some consideration, they will be able to work in these government hospitals. The COVID fight cannot be extended with the tired and fatigued doctors and nurses who have been doing it for more than 1.5 years. They're really tired, they're fed up. We need to get young blood now to the fight. And we do have those young blood. All we have to do is give them incentive. Otherwise, money is not an incentive. They won't accept it. So we can do it. I'm sure if we do this, we will be able to staff these government hospitals.
The idea that Dr. Shetty moved sounds so easy to do, Dr. Lal. It's like creating an emergency Indian medical service, and if he says that you can have even 70,000 more doctors or 80,000 more doctors out there on the field, incentivize them, give them marks, give them experience certificates, and maybe even make their teaching practical. These are ideas that are so easily doable. What's the obstacle, Dr. Lal?
The obstacle, Arnab, is only the mindset. What Dr. Shetty has been saying for quite some time. This, the government of India has already time-tested, formula is there. If you remember, during the 65 war, 71 war, there used to be an emergency commission in the army. Whenever you were short of officers, I think you come from an armed forces background, so you will appreciate what I'm saying. And all those regular services selection board rules, right now India is short of 13,000 officers. And when you ask the armed forces that why is there a shortage? Well, we cannot dilute our standards and we cannot do this. And there is a shortage, and now people are trying to do MBAs, etc. But the fact of the matter is that, well, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. So you please, arrange for all these things, what Dr. Shetty is saying. And also, I would also like to, add here by way of vaccination. I take the vaccination as our, the first kind of, it's almost like a Bible. You have to, read it, practice it, eat it, drink it every day. That kind of a thing. So here I have a suggestion for everybody else. Anybody in India who is capable of giving an intramuscular injection should be roped in. I look at this vaccination drive as something like the British evacuation from Dunkirk in 1942, if you remember, 41, where 350,000 soldiers, majority of them British and some French and some Belgian, were evacuated by the British by anything which was, floating. Please remember this. So I'm being very serious
Yeah.
here. You don't need an MBBS kind of a doctor to vaccinate. The nurses are there. So you get all
That's
your
right.
Ayush doctors, Ayurvedic, you get Unani,
Yes.
you get, yeah. And you make it what Rakesh ji is saying, that you make it, a national effort, you bombard all your media, electronic and print, everything, that yes, today we must reach this number. And it is actually music to our ears when we heard first it was 89 lakhs. So you don't let this number fall to 40 lakhs, 50 lakhs. And I think this is possible and highly doable, because without vaccination, we are gone, we are sunk.
No, I think some very practical advice has come and some very, very real suggestions have come. In order to ensure that it reaches the right ears, intend to summarize some of the points in this conversation and share it as a note that we can perhaps share with the health minister and with the relevant authorities. With your permission, I'm going to do that. And all I'll say at the end is, Dr. Shetty, Dr. Lal, and Rakesh, thank you for joining. It has been, the more real we get in the battle, the more the challenges can be surmounted. And I also think maybe Dr. Shetty and Dr. Lal, it is time to respect domain expertise in the running of specific arms of the government. By which I mean, I always believe that, people with the relevant domain expertise must be made to take the decisions. Not just get a lot of manpower to fight, but let's get doctors to do national service. Let's get our best minds in the strategic areas, in foreign policy, in medicine, to make India great again. So I do hope some changes happen. Any last word on Doctors' Day very quickly? Dr. Lal, you want a message for all doctors and healthcare workers working today? One short message from you, Dr. Lal.
So I would like to say thank you very much, and we shall do it again, and I hope the time never comes. And please increase the testing, without that we are again sunk. So testing.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Dr. Shetty?
Yes, I have a message to the people of this country, not just the doctors. My message is, when COVID just started, when doctors were not vaccinated, when nurses were not vaccinated, nobody knew whether we are going to be alive or dead if we got the COVID.
Yeah.
These doctors who entered the ICU and started taking care of patients who are suffering from COVID, if you ever think that they did it for the salary or the money they are getting, you are mistaken.
Yeah.
They were willing to sacrifice their life to save your life. Always remember that. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, that's beautifully said. And my friend Rakesh likes to use cricketing analogies. The doctors who did that before vaccination were like the heroes who faced, if you're talking about the Prudential 1983 Cup, a Malcolm Marshall delivery without a helmet. But they did it so bravely. And that's why we are here, right, Rakesh? I think you and I, we have so much to learn and so much more to do, Rakesh.
Yes, Arnab, when listening to the two doctors, right, Dr. Lal and Dr. Shetty, as they said, resource is very much important. But along with the resource, I think the change of behavior or mindset is very much important. And I think that is where we can work towards spreading the bigger message towards the motivation, so that we are able to amplify the messages on precautions. Because if we are able to keep people away from COVID, I think we will lessen the burden of our doctor friends, who in these times are our only hope. They are the only source of our health and happiness around. So to this, I would say, I wish them well, right, towards greater health and a bigger happiness. But yes, right, to us, I think they are the most important people as on today on earth, right? They are our angels, they are our saviors.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Rakesh. Thank you, Dr. Lal. Thank you, Dr. Devi Shetty. And this should be the start of a new Team India. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
मैंने अपनी जिंदगी में बहुत से मैच डू और डाई खेले हैं, जीते भी हैं, हारे भी हैं, लेकिन उससे ज्यादा खतरनाक ये मैच है कोरोना के खिलाफ। फर्स्ट इनिंग हमें लगा कि हम कोरोना से जीत रहे हैं, लेकिन सेकेंड इनिंग में कोरोना ने बहुत जबरदस्त कमबैक किया। जितना ही खतरनाक ऑपोजिशन, उतनी ही स्ट्रॉन्ग तैयारी एंड सेफ्टी, ताकि मैच जीता जा सके। कोरोना को हराने के लिए तैयार हो जाओ।